up on Chapman News. Guilty, guilty, guilty. What's next for the officer who killed George Floyd? And will this mean reforms in policing? And the president calls gun violence an epidemic. Is it getting worse? And what are the prospects for tougher gun laws? And a Chapman professor is under fire after a racially insensitive tweet. We'll have the story coming up on Chapman News.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
Good afternoon, I'm Erin Coogan, and welcome to another edition of Chapman News. Today we begin with issues that have dominated the news for months: police shootings, mass killings, and a proliferation of guns. The latest just last night. One person is dead and 4 more are injured after 2 overnight shootings in downtown San Diego. Investigators believe the suspect had an argument with the 28-year-old victim and shot him. The victim was found dead at the scene, and police say the shooter then walked to the next block, had an argument with another group of men, and opened fire again, wounding 4 of them. The suspect has been taken into custody after an officer tased him, but police have not released his name or the charges against him. This shooting marks another incident in the recent spike in gun violence. This year alone, there have been 156 mass shootings in America. That's more than 1 mass shooting per day. We took a look at the country's current gun violence crisis.
It's happened yet again in America.
The mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado.
Breaking news from just outside New York City after a multiple shooting at a supermarket in West Hempstead, Long Island.
An epidemic. That's how President Joe Biden described America's recent bout with gun violence. It almost seems as though before we can properly mourn the lives lost in one shooting, news of another tragedy forces us to move on just to keep up. In 2021 alone, 13,131 people have died in gun-related incidents. 156 mass shootings have been reported, and 403 people have been killed by police. But the victims of these attacks are more than just statistics. They're fathers, brothers, sons, sisters, and daughters, all dead at the hands of a pulled trigger in someone else's.
I didn't get the chance to tell my cousin I love him, but I'm telling him I love him now. I love you, Dante.
Love you, Dante.
Within the past 2 months alone, there have been 5 high-profile mass shootings. On March 16th, 6 women and 2 men in Atlanta, Georgia were gunned down in what many believe to be a racially motivated attack. Less than a week later, 10 more were killed in a grocery store shooting in Boulder, Colorado. March 31st, a gunman shot and killed a 4-year-old boy and 3 others here in Orange. On April 7th, former NFL player Phillip Adams shot 6 people in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And just last week, on the 15th, 8 people were shot and killed in an Indianapolis murder-suicide. Despite coronavirus lockdowns, nearly 20,000 Americans died from gun violence in 2020, which is more than any year in the past 2 decades. Meanwhile, the country lay on edge as the officer-involved killing of 20-year-old Dante Wright brought back feelings of police brutality and racial injustice.
I never imagined that I'd be standing here. The roles should completely be reversed. My son should be burying me. He was a brother, a jokester. He was loved by so many.
And not 10 days later, police shot and killed 16-year-old Makia Bryant in Columbus, Ohio. She was reported to be armed with a knife at the time of the shooting. In an address to the nation earlier this month, President Biden presented 6 actions he planned to take to mitigate the country's current gun crisis. This included proposing measures to ban the sale of assault-style weapons, increasing protocol for buying and selling, and enforcing more intense background checks for gun holders.
Just like with background checks, the vast majority of the Americans support these extreme risk protection order laws. And it's time to put these laws on the books and protect even more people.
For any new legislation to proceed, it must pass votes in both the House and the Senate.
Despite the groundbreaking guilty verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial, we're all wondering what's next. Will this guilty verdict lead to true reform in the criminal justice system? Natalie Tasha Thompson reports.
The last view we got of Derek Chauvin was as he was being led from the courtroom in handcuffs.
Jurors deliberated for over 10 hours across 2 days before reaching the final verdict: guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter.
During the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty.
The prosecution has moved to have Chauvin's bail revoked, and he will be sentenced in 8 weeks, as Floyd's family calls for a max sentencing of up to 40 years in prison. But as a first offender, that sentence could be lessened. Chauvin is now being held in a maximum security isolation facility to protect him from other prisoners. Outside the courthouse on Tuesday in downtown Minneapolis, a crowd erupted into cheers and chants when word of the verdict got out.
All three counts! All three counts! All three counts! All three counts!
The New York Times reports that the chances of killing by a police officer leading to a murder conviction is 1 out of 2,000.
This is a victory for those who champion humanity over inhumanity, those who champion justice over injustice, those who champion morals over immorality.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison called Tuesday's guilty verdict in the case a first step towards justice.
Justice implies true restoration, but it is accountability, which is the first step towards justice.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced Wednesday that the Justice Department is launching a pattern or practice investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department to ensure that nothing like this happens again.
The investigation will also assess whether the MPD engages in discriminatory conduct and whether its treatment of those with behavioral health disabilities is unlawful.
President Biden and Vice President Harris took to the podium on Tuesday night to say that more needs to be done to address police brutality.
No one should be above the law, and today's verdict sends that message, but it's not enough.
President Biden is pushing to advance the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act that passed in the House and aims to put an end to chokeholds and carotid holds for police at the federal level. I'm Natalie Tasha Thompson for Chapman News.
And an update on the Orange shooting that took place about 3 weeks ago. Further investigation revealed that the shooter should not have been allowed to buy a gun based on a law that prohibits people from purchasing firearms after being convicted of a crime. Aminadab Gaxiola Gonzalez was convicted of battery in 2015, a factor that should have stopped him from buying a gun at stores that run background checks. It is still unclear how Gonzalez got the gun, and detectives are still working on tracing the Glock semi-automatic handgun and ammunition. Los Angeles County is appealing a judge's ruling that would force LA to find housing for homeless residents on Skid Row by mid-October. Judge David O. Carter's ruling is in response to a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles filed by 7 parties, including business owners and activists who demanded they address the homelessness crisis last year. Los Angeles County has the largest homeless population of any region in the U.S., according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This ruling could potentially help over 4,000 people.
This is a world too. We may not have the luxury things that they have down there, but we're human just like they are. We bleed the same blood, and we love, we cry just same as you, because we're all the same. We're all the same.
The order specifies the city must provide shelter to Skid Row's population prior to October 18th, with unaccompanied women and minors receiving priority housing within the next 90 days. And right now, 40 world leaders are meeting to talk climate change. President Biden's Leaders Summit on Climate spotlights the urgency and economic benefits of taking actions to improve our environmental footprint. President Biden's committing to cutting the U.S.'s greenhouse gas emissions by 50 to 52% before 2030, and the White House saying it will offer money to developing countries to join the cause and cut emissions.
The signs are unmistakable. The science is undeniable, but the cost of inaction keeps mounting. The United States isn't waiting. We are resolving to take action.
But Republicans and Democrats don't agree on how tough the goal should be. Lindsay Arabian has more on the political front. Lindsay?
Thanks, Aaron. A decade-long movement to reshape the political map is finally shaping up for the Democrats. The bill making the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the 51st state in the U.S., has made it past the House floor with a close bill of 216 to 208, but some Republicans think it's a political power grab. making the likelihood of it passing through the Senate unlikely. If Washington, D.C. does become a state, there is no doubt that its elected officials would be Democrats. Democrats also facing criticism from Republicans as they aim to pass a bill expanding the Supreme Court from 9 to 13 seats, also known as court packing. Some critics, including Senator Lindsey Graham, claim it's a way for Democrats to push their partisan plan.
We're not going to allow the most radical liberal movement in modern American history to destroy the rule of law for partisan purposes. Why do they want more?
However, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says it's not out of the question.
The growth of our country, the size of our country, the growth of our challenges in terms of the economy, etc., might necessitate such a thing. But in answer to your question, I have no plans to bring it to the floor.
The Senate also passing a bipartisan bill yesterday to fight back against the rise of anti-Asian hate during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Justice Department will partner with local organizations and law enforcement to raise awareness about hate crimes, including an online reporting system in multiple languages. But the bipartisan support didn't extend to the border conflict, which continues to be in turmoil. Facing a public outcry for not following through on his campaign promise, President Biden says he will raise the refugee cap. This comes after he signed an executive order a week ago that extended the 15,000 refugee maximum, one that was originally placed by former President Donald Trump. However, the extended cap is not expected to be as large as what he originally proposed, 62,000 refugees a year. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters on Tuesday that the surge in unaccompanied minors at the border has had an impact on the refugee cap.
The impact on OR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, of having, of course, welcoming in, delivering on a decision the president made to treat children as they come across the border humanely and ensure they are treated in a safe manner, has a way on the system, including the Office of Refugee Resettlement.
Chapman News will continue to keep you updated on the latest in the political world every Friday. I'm Lindsay Arabian. Back to you, Aaron.
Thanks, Lindsay. Back here on campus, a Chapman history professor made headlines this week for an insensitive tweet. Stephanie Parajan has more.
Here on Chapman's campus, history professor Liam O'Mara received criticism after he responded to Black conservative political commentator Candace Owens' claim that Black people are the greatest threat to both Black and Asian American communities. O'Mara responded by tweeting an image of a KKK hood to Owens. O'Mara says his intention was to show the similarities he saw between Candace's rhetoric and the Klan's. Owens allegedly filed a police report on O'Mara's conduct, and O'Mara later released an apology video on March 25th.
I apologize without reservation. I cannot know personally the pain which images of the Klan hood can inspire, and its use in this context is an example of the way white privilege can mask intentions and cause offense. My use of that image was racially insensitive and intolerable. In my mind, that the mask was offensive was the whole point, as I'd hoped to draw attention to her offensively racist argument.
Professor O'Mara says he believes strongly in accountability and spoke to Chapman News about what he says he has learned from this experience.
If I could have gone back and redone the same thing, I would have just done it. I would have used the words only and made the basic case, really added in that context. This is Klan rhetoric. This belongs in our past and under those hoods. And I didn't do that. I chose the very pithy kind of like social media-y, meme-y sort of response.
O'Mara also spoke about the pitfalls of social media in communication.
Media takes away the ability to give context to discussions. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you're present with them, they have an opportunity to immediately respond to you, to ask questions. You can see in their eyes if you said something wrong. You don't get that opportunity in social media. So if you put something badly, there's no way to take it back.
Moving forward, he says he will be more thoughtful in his online interactions.
I definitely want to be a bit more cautious about engaging with public figures that way. But I'm not going to stop talking about the issues that are important. I'm just going to take more time to think through how I want to do it.
I'm Stephanie Parajan, Chapman News.
Now, the university has yet to comment on Professor O'Mara or the surrounding controversy. Coming up, cases plummeting as vaccines are rising. What's the future of COVID-19 in California and beyond?
The record-breaking cold in the Northeast. I'll have your weekly forecast.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
A decision is expected today regarding the fate of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. As you'll recall, the company's one-shot vaccine was pulled off the market when 6 women developed severe blood clots. The situation with the J&J vaccine may be contributing to what's called vaccine hesitancy. With more on that, here's Michael Benifta.
Last week, Quinnipiac University released a poll showing that about 27% of Americans do not plan on getting vaccinated, with Republicans showing the highest hesitancy of any group at 45%. Though, among age groups, those 18 to 34 were least likely to take the vaccine at around 36%. For experts like Chapman's own Dr. Jerica Lamb, there is potential to lower these numbers.
So it's just a matter of making sure that all boots on the ground in educating everyone. So we hope to bring down the percentage from 27% to hopefully less than 10%.
Experts say at least 70 to 85% is needed to get herd immunity, with some even going as far as 90% because of the variants. Without reaching herd immunity, the point at which enough people are vaccinated that the virus would be unable to spread, Dr. Lamb predicts another wave of infections.
Another surge in the fall, another lockdown in wintertime. We cannot get together with friends and family, and those are the realities that we have gone through, and those will be the realities that we will go through again.
Even if Americans are vaccinated, the CDC still recommends wearing masks in public or when interacting with non-vaccinated at-risk people, allowing for mask relaxation only with other fully vaccinated people.
In the public setting, we don't know who have been vaccinated. And the concern is that even though I have been vaccinated, I can be a carrier of the virus.
Some prominent figures have exploited the need for further mask use to peddle vaccine conspiracy theories and lower vaccine confidence. But for Dr. Lamb, these conspiracies are what got the U.S. here in the first place.
We are here in this place because not everyone is in line with the same goal. We could have gone here much earlier. We could have reached herd immunity much earlier if everyone would just get up and get out there and get vaccinated.
Last week, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla said booster shots could be necessary to address new variants, echoing messages from Fauci and other health experts that COVID-19 could linger, though far less deadly, for years to come. For Chapman News, I'm Michael Benifta.
Just yesterday, the UC and Cal State University systems announced they will require COVID-19 vaccinations for all students, staff, and faculty returning to campus in the fall. Here in California, we have the lowest case rate in the continental U.S., so let's take a look at some of those coronavirus numbers. In California, there are about 40.3 cases reported per 100,000 people. 34% of residents are fully vaccinated, with Orange County alone administering over 2.2 million doses so far. Some breaking updates across the world. Global COVID-19 deaths topped 3 million last Saturday. Just yesterday, India set a record of over 312,000 COVID-19 cases in a single day. This surpasses the previous single-day record set by the U.S. of around 300,000 cases in early January. India has been facing a second wave since the start of this month, with multiple states now imposing a weekend curfew. While countries like India are undergoing lockdowns again, others are doing the exact opposite. Australia and New Zealand reopening travel between themselves on Monday. This agreement, also known as the Trans-Tasman Travel Bubble, allows visitors to no longer quarantine for 2 weeks. Thousands of excited passengers crowded the two nations' airports this week, many reunions mixed with joy and tears.
It's mixed emotions. It's sad circumstances that she's here for the loss of their brother, but we're happy that we get this opportunity to spend time with family now.
And just yesterday, Russia ordered troops to withdraw from the Ukraine border. The move de-escalates militant strategies after widespread concern from the international community. The Ukrainian president thanked Western allies on Twitter, saying, "Ukraine is always vigilant, yet welcomes any steps to decrease the military presence and de-escalate the situation in Donbass. Ukraine seeks peace, grateful to international partners for their support using the hashtag #StrongerTogether." Russia's buildup of military forces along the Ukraine border was by far the largest since 2014, when Russia annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula. And tomorrow marks the 106th commemoration of the Armenian Genocide. From 1915 to 1923, the Ottoman Turks sought out to ethnically cleanse over 1 million Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks.
The act of seeking to destroy a people and a culture is a different kind of evil. And it was not until Raphael Lemkin coined the term genocide that we had a word to describe it.
There's a big push for President Joe Biden to fulfill his campaign promise and formally recognize it as a genocide. More than 200 Armenian prisoners of war are still in Azeri custody. And high praise is being shown to the pilot who safely landed a World War II airplane that had a mechanical failure during a recent air show. Taking part in the Cocoa Beach Air Show, onlookers at the nearby beach watched in awe as the plane slowly made its way to a soft landing in the water. After the landing, the air show announced no injuries had occurred, despite the large crowd surrounding the plane during the landing attempt. And NASA made history this week with its Mars copter Ingenuity, taking to the Martian skies for the very first time. Ingenuity, NASA's experiment to prove flight on other planets could be achieved, was successful and reminded some of the Wright brothers' first flight in 1903. The engineers even including a piece of that plane on the Mars copter. So Mars's atmosphere is 99% less dense than Earth's, making propeller-based flight very challenging, not to mention that night temperatures can get down to negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature that would instantly cripple any normal Earth helicopter. Additional flights are planned for Ingenuity to further experiment with the limits of flight on Mars. And flying back over here to Earth now, here's Ariana with our national weather forecast. Ariana?
The Midwest and East regions are experiencing record colds this week as storms that look like they belong in January are coming in April. These harsh temperatures have already made their mark throughout the country. In Wisconsin, a deadly 48-car pileup has killed one and left many other drivers hospitalized. Caused by a full-blown whiteout, drivers could have thrown a snowball farther than they could see on Interstate 41. In other states, residents have experienced several inches of snow, with there being over 8 inches in Ohio alone. With hail and 30-degree temperatures in the east, this kind of unpredictable weather is something that, thanks to climate change, we should start to expect more frequently. Let's take a look further into our national forecast. Now looking at San Francisco, it's a cool 57 degrees in San Francisco, even cooler in Seattle with 55 degrees. It's getting hot in Vegas with a high of 87 degrees and a cool 56 degrees in Denver. Now down here in Texas, it's 77 degrees in Texas. Moving on to Minneapolis with a cool 54 degrees. Expect some precipitation in Minneapolis. 58 degrees in Chicago, 61 degrees in Atlanta, 81 degrees in Miami, Florida, 65 degrees in New York, and 65 degrees as well in Washington, D.C. Now let's take a look at Westminster. It's a cool 66 degrees in Westminster right now. Even cooler in Newport Beach with 62 degrees there. 67 degrees here in Orange. 64 degrees in Irvine, Mission Viejo, and Laguna Beach, and a cooler 60 degrees in San Clemente. Now let's look at our orange 7-day forecast. Today, expect a high of 67 degrees and a low of 54 degrees, the day being partly cloudy. And tomorrow, expect a high of 70 degrees and a low of 52 degrees. On Sunday, it's going to be partly cloudy as well with a high of 68 degrees and a low of 54 degrees. On Monday, remember your umbrella. It's going to rain with a high of 62 degrees and a low of 52 degrees. On Tuesday, it's going to be sunnier. The day is going to be partly cloudy with a high of 68 degrees and a low of 51 degrees. On Wednesday, expect a sunny day with a high of 81 degrees and a low of 57 degrees. And on Thursday, expect a partly cloudy day with a high of 88 degrees and a low of 61 degrees. That's your weekly forecast. Stay safe out there, guys. Back to you, Aaron.
Coming up, the Chapman baseball team strikes out after getting a round of COVID-19 infections. We'll have more next.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Thanks to some good Samaritans and a little bit of lucky timing, a major crisis was averted earlier this week after a boat sunk in Newport Beach. The boat, which had already broken down, was being towed by a Good Samaritan when it began taking in water, forcing all 14 people on board to jump ship. Luckily, some more bystanders, the Harbor Patrol, and the Sheriff's Office were able to reach the wreck and pull everyone out of the water and provide care. The cause of the sunk ship is still under investigation. This week, former Washington football team quarterback Alex Smith announced his retirement from the NFL after a 16-year career. While Smith will probably never join the Hall of Fame for his play on the field, he will be recognized for having one of the greatest comeback stories in sports history. In a game in November 2018, Smith fractured his leg in multiple places. His leg was infected shortly after and sent Smith into sepsis, bringing him close to death. He was then told he may lose his leg and would probably never walk again. 18 months later, on October 11th of last year, after a grueling recovery process, he was able to take the field one last time. Smith finished the season with a 5-1 record after becoming the starting quarterback and leading his team to the playoffs. He managed this despite the fact that coaching staff tried to keep him off the field, putting him through extra training and grueling workouts to dissuade him from returning. Smith says he has more football left in him and was reportedly close to signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but chose to retire to spend more time with his family. We wish you the best of luck in retirement, Alex. And now let's toss it over to Brennan Corrigan to give you your sports rundown on the best campus sports show. Take it away, Brennan.
Thanks, Aaron. Hello, everyone. I'm Brennan Corrigan, here to update you on all things sports, both here at Chapman and around the world. Let's get into it. Here at Chapman, some members of the baseball team contracted COVID-19 last week. The team was scheduled to play Redlands 3 times last weekend, but these games were postponed by the SCIAC after the players contracted the virus. Pam Gibbons, Chapman's head athletic trainer, says the transmission source is still unknown, but the affected players are recovering well. If the baseball team passes all of their COVID tests, they will play California Lutheran today at 3 p.m. at home and twice in Thousand Oaks tomorrow. Our thoughts and well wishes go out to the baseball team as they recover and continue the rest of their spring season. Good luck, Panthers. Chapman basketball returned back to Harold Hutton Sports Center 2 weeks ago for the first time since August 2020. The team is resuming their COVID-safe workouts in the gym, similar to how they did in August before being shut down by new restrictions. The basketball team is working on conditioning, shooting, and ball handling drills during their 2 workouts a week. Alex Rogat, a junior power forward, is an international student from Austria. He had to return back home when the pandemic hit, but speaks on what it is like to be back in the gym with his teammates.
So yeah, no, it's been good though. Just to get back in the gym for a lot of guys. We haven't had a lot of gym access. Just to get in, hang out with some of the guys, get some shots up. I think not just for team bonding and team chemistry purposes has been really huge.
Chapman basketball will finish up workouts at the conclusion of this spring semester and prepare individually over the summer for their fall 2021 season. Afterwards, team workouts start back up again in August. And now an update on Deshaun Watson, the NFL quarterback battling sexual misconduct allegations and lawsuits from several massage therapists. Earlier this week, Watson's legal team responded to the claims against him, saying they were based on lies, as some of the women involved in the investigation continued to work with Watson after the alleged sexual misconduct. Watson's lawyer, Rusty Hardin, says, "This of course raises the question of why they would agree to follow-up therapy sessions when they claim their experiences made them feel like they wanted to vomit and caused them to no longer accept massage clients for fear of this type of harassment." Houston attorney Tony Busby, who represents all the plaintiffs, says the response from Watson's team contains vague and fake allegations. The criminal investigation is still ongoing, and Watson is also under investigation from the NFL. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Best Campus Sports Show. Make sure to get outside this weekend and stay active. I'm Brennan Corrigan. Back to you, Aaron.
And the Oscar goes to, we'll give you a preview after the break.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
And here's a little good news for all of you out-of-state Disneyland lovers. California theme parks can now admit fully vaccinated out-of-state visitors. While only SeaWorld has taken advantage of the relaxed restriction, others are expected to follow suit. Up next, Nick has the preview on the Oscars and some celebrity couple announcements.
Thanks, Aaron. It's springtime, which means award season is wrapping up. While renewal and new life are in the air, apparently so are breakups. The 93rd Oscars are this Sunday, featuring in-person acceptances. Unlike other award shows this year, the Academy Award producers decided against Zoom speeches, informing nominees that they will have to attend in person at Union Station in Los Angeles. Producers also announced this year speeches are permitted to be longer than 45 seconds, and the entire show will be shot more like a movie. As for actual nominations, the period piece Mank has blown every other competitor out of the water, receiving 10 nominations including Best Picture and Best Actor. This is also the first time two women have ever been nominated for Best Director at the same time, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. While this year has been especially rough for award show viewership and ratings overall, we will have to wait and see how many end up watching this year's Oscars. Back in 2014, the Oscars hit 43.7 million viewers, and since then, ratings have been on the decline. While we anticipate the winners of the final Hollywood award shows this year, some of our anticipation surrounding A-Rod and J-Lo has now been settled. Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez have called it quits after officially announcing their split last week. The former couple told Today in an exclusive interview, "We have realized we are better as friends and look forward to remaining so. We will continue to work together and support each other on our shared businesses and projects. We wish the best for each other and one another's children." This comes after their 2-year-long engagement and rumors of A-Rod allegedly cheating on Lopez, leading to initial speculation earlier this year about their separation, which the couple denied at the time. Even with this unfortunate news, other couples are thriving and bringing new life into this world. Singer J Balvin and model girlfriend Valentina Ferrer announced their pregnancy last week with their Vogue Mexico shoot. Ferrer also posted to her Instagram from the shoot, captioning it, "Se va agrandando la familia," or "the family is growing." The former Miss Argentina first appeared with Balvin in a music video back in 2017, and they officially debuted as a couple during the 2018 Fashion Week. To kick off this weekend, I'm leaving you with a story of innovation and hope for a better environment. Adidas announced its release of a new shoe, made from mushrooms. The sportswear giant partnered with biotech company Bolt Threads to design a new Stan Smith tennis shoe, which is made from mushroom-based material they call Mixlo. The mushrooms used to make Milo are grown in vertical configurations that can be gathered and ready to use in just 2 weeks. The alternative material is also vegan and does not contain plastic. It is great to see some of these larger corporations taking a big step towards more environmentally friendly fashion and products. I hope everyone can do something this weekend to reduce their carbon footprint. I'm Nick Ratton for Chapman News.
Thanks, Nick. And Netflix announced this week their new docuseries about the biggest TikTok stars, known as the Hype House. The series marks the increasing influence of TikTok and 8 of the TikTok's biggest creators, with all having millions of followers. Notably absent from the show is TikTok's most followed star, Charli D'Amelio. Netflix has yet to announce further details of the series. The coronavirus lockdown has fast-tracked the normalization of therapeutic marijuana use in the U.S. Here to explain the pandemic pothead phenomenon is Nick Ratton.
Ganja, reefer, the devil's lettuce. No matter what you call it or where you stand on it, cannabis has proven a valuable resource for the world, stretching back centuries in time. In ancient Europe, indigenous tribes burnt the plant for ritual ceremonies. In medieval India, apothecaries added it to meals for medicinal purposes. And in present-day America, well, let's just say it's been a hard year. According to Politico, weed-friendly states such as California and Colorado have seen an uptick in daily sales during the last 13 months, for some close to 20%. Edibles in particular have experienced a major boom, a trend likely attributed to those practicing respiratory caution amidst the pandemic. States seem to be taking note, with 33 declaring marijuana dispensaries essential businesses during the pandemic. What's more, with support for recreational marijuana growing 2% nationally this past year, states such as New York have moved forward with legalization.
We must also end the needless and unjust criminal convictions and the debilitating criminal stigma, and let's legalize the adult use of recreational marijuana once and for all.
Despite this apparent embracing of cannabis, medical professionals such as Dr. Mike Varshavsky still caution frequent consumption of the drug, especially when used to bury the incredibly relevant feelings of anxiety and depression.
I think it's on its way to get legalized, but it doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't mean that I recommend people do it. I do think it has serious medical harms that do exist that we don't yet even know about because it hasn't been studied properly.
Dr. Varshavsky says people with anxiety may self-rely on marijuana instead of facing their goals head-on. For students like Madison Mercer, however, the pros outweigh the cons, especially during the pandemic.
For me personally, I've been smoking weed for probably 3 years, a lot more this last year. I've been to therapy, I've been on antidepressants, I've tried so many different things, and weed is like one of the only things that truly calms down my anxiety. I especially have had a really, really hard year mentally and emotionally, and sometimes I just need to be distracted.
Though the pandemic is nearly over, it's fair to say Mary Jane's star will continue burning, likely brighter than ever before. For Chapman News, I'm Nick Ratton.
We sure have all needed some coping mechanisms during the pandemic, but do you know what mine is? Following Chapman News on social media at Chapman News and subscribing to our YouTube channel at chapmannews.tv. I'm Erin Coogan, and we'll see you next week.